Good evening and welcome to Illuminating the Paranormal. How is everyone this evening? I am here in the Midwest and I am cold. We don't have any snow right now, at least not in northern Indiana, but we are cold. We're looking at possible a little bit of snow in the next day or two, but it doesn't look like anything that's going to stick around. And if there's anybody that's listening right now, can you let me know if you heard my music in the beginning? If not, I do need to push another button. So I hope everyone is having a good evening. I have a great guest with me this evening. And with me this evening, I have Chris Neilson. And Chris Neilson is also known as the Paranomad because this gentleman travels all over to do his investigations. So, Chris, how are you this evening? Doing really well. So, what is up with you? What have you been doing lately? Okay. Wow, you have been busy already, and we're just starting into 2020. I've got to say, I haven't had any investigations. Okay, not yet. All right, you know what? Hold on one second. Let me hop over here. I need to push another button, and hopefully that's going to fix it so they can actually hear you. Okay, let me see if it's like I said, there's a 2-second lag, so let's see if they can hear you now. And okay, Chris, keep talking. So besides those couple of places, you have some more that are coming up?
Yeah, I've actually got quite the schedule. So for the rest of February and March, I'm pretty much clear. Of anything scheduled, of course, it's one of those things I'll get a call from someone somewhere on the weekend seeing if I want to do something. But yeah, HauntedCon is the next stop, so I'll be heading to Omaha.
Okay. All right. See, you're much more west than I am. Most of mine tend to be like Indiana, Ohio, Illinois, Kentucky, Tennessee. You're more west. I'm more central and south.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do some on the East Coast from time to time when I get back there. But yeah, well, I know from going to your website, which is www.paranomad.com, that you did have an experience as a child. I believe you were 8. So let me ask you this. Since the experience, what is it that keeps you going? Why are you still out there investigating? I mean, other than having that experience as a child, what keeps you going?
Honestly, it kind of snowballed from there. So I feel like it's just a natural human curiosity to have, kind of wonders about, what happens, after we die. And that first experience was just kind of a catalyst, and it snowballed into me kind of really delving into paranormal research, that sort of thing, when I was about 16. And honestly, it's just a wheel I can't keep from spinning. I've got, every time I go out and do something, I'll usually leave with more questions than I have answers to. So it's just a very, very hard thing to let go of. And honestly, I feel like it's just over the years, because I've been doing this for a little over a decade now. Honestly, it's just kind of become part of my identity.
Okay, yeah. People start to know you. You'll go somewhere and you go to a restaurant and they'll be ready to bring you over your chips and salsa, and they'll stop and they're like, "Don't you? Are you the person that hunts the ghosts and stuff?" You get to be known.
Oh yeah, you're that one guy from that one thing.
Yeah, right. Love it. Oh, perfect. Well, I see we have some great people in the chat room tonight. Swampy, how are you, dear? So glad you're here. My good friend Jean, who's been following me pretty much from the beginning there. And Kelly, who's bought a hat for me, and that we've seen each other from many, many different Paracons that we have been at. And let's see, we have Mama Pat's in the room and Danielle, and we have a guest. So thank you guys for hanging with me tonight. I appreciate that. So you got, it's your life now. You're doing this. I know your dad does join you on these investigations. Let me ask you, was it hard to convince him about all of this, or was he also into the paranormal?
No. So the first pretty much team that I co-found was with him through a series of happy accidents for college. I ended up, it was just easiest to end up living with him. And yeah, it was something that's always just kind of been an interest to the both of us. Okay. And you ever have one of those really groggy, like 3 a.m. decisions where it sounds like a good idea, but it probably isn't at the time?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it was one of those.
Okay.
I was sitting up watching one of the TV shows, and it was just kind of one of those, well, we could probably do that, right? And actually started investing in equipment, established a team, because we both kind of done our own research prior, our own little here's and there's, but that was when we actually had something with any sort of real traction to it.
Okay. So you said about investigating with equipment. Let me ask you this. What's your favorite piece of equipment and why?
So my lately, my favorite thing to use on investigation has actually been myself. That is something that's
good for you.
I teeter on. It seems to come up whenever I have some sort of speaking engagement, that when it comes to the paranormal, you are the best tool that you have. And over the last few years, it's for me become quite the journey, the process. I have some friends that refer to his psychic abilities as their woo woo, and I'm finding my woo woo, starting to actually feel things up. I'm starting to visually. I'm actually a very. I know there's an actual word for it, but I see them a bit more than the average person might.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So that being said, let me ask you this real quick, because you're more or less saying it, but I want to get your opinion on it. So, do you think those that are out there, those of us who have investigated more than like 6 months, the longer you investigate, the more you do, the more you become. The more information you get, the more you do this, that you kind of naturally start to open up and start being able to see, hear, and experience more than the average person?
Oh, absolutely. No doubt about it whatsoever. Okay. I kind of subscribe to the idea that we are all born naturally with that, if you want to call it like a sixth sense. Mm-hmm. And as we grow up, we're taught to put on these filters of, rationalize this almost to the point of it not being rational anymore. This is this, this is this, this is this. Don't listen to that little voice in the back of your head, because it's just that it's nothing. And definitely over the last decade, I've learned to listen to that little voice more. Those filters kind of start coming off. Mm-hmm. And I first started kind of noticing it back, probably, honestly, even as far back as 2012, 2013. But something about the last couple of years for me personally, and it's probably been hanging out with the right kinds of people, my fellow woo-woos. It almost kind of rubs off on you. So I don't know whether or not to call them a bad influence, but Yeah, I will call Kelly out on that personally. The more time
Kelly.
I've spent
You're
with
getting
her,
called out.
the more time I've spent with her, the more I seem to be experiencing things. So I'm not saying there's a causality, but there's certainly some sort of correlation there.
Yeah. And it cracks me up because I and my friends, we all kind of jokingly call it woo-woo too, just because you've got so many people that will go, oh, you're into that woo-woo stuff. So now it's kind of stuck because we think it's funny. So we kind of jokingly call it woo-woo stuff too. Yeah. And anything, you don't even say paranormal, the woo-woo stuff, the metaphysical, the woo-woo. Oh, God, thank you. I'm so happy there's other people that get it, too.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And I agree. I think it's a lot of it has to do with the people that you hang out with, the people you investigate with. We open each other's minds up to possibilities and things that could be out there or that we can be doing. And yeah, I agree with you that I think everybody is born with the gift. Now, how much of the gift, I think really depends on you with how much you use it, how much you're willing to accept what's there. And of course, practice makes perfect. But yeah, I believe everybody has it. It's just, how much you practice with it is going to determine how much you're going to have it there.
Yeah, absolutely. Most definitely.
Yeah. So, good. All right. Well, let me ask you this. Since you've been out there for a while, you've been doing this, what is the one case that you have had? Now, of course, don't say names if there are people involved, but what's the one case you cannot forget? The one that got to you? And we all have one. What was yours?
So, and honestly, there's probably a correlation with the year there. Back in 2013, I had a kind of a fit of young and dumb, and I'm sure most of the listeners out there have heard of the Edinburgh Manor in Scotch Grove, Iowa. It made its grand appearance on Ghost Adventures, a few years back. Mm-hmm. But prior to that, like I said, in a fit of young and dumb, I had been accepted to film school for financial reasons. I wasn't able to go, and I was just having this sort of complex of this is something I really wanted to do, something I want to pursue. And if I wasn't going to do it through schooling, I wanted to at least try to make a movie myself. So I took out a loan, got expensive cameras. I decided I was going to film a documentary. And it just so happened that I kick myself almost every time I bring it up because I can't remember who specifically referred me to Edinburgh. But, and for any that might not know, so the Edinburgh Manor is a notorious haunt in kind of central eastern Iowa. The property it was on served as the Jones County Poor Farm from 1856 to 1910. 1911, a building was built on the property, and it was opened as the Jones County Home for the Incurably Insane. And obviously over the years it developed a bit more of a PC title, but that's basically what that building was, the energy around it. And I thought, you see all those shows on TV, and it's this group of guys. Well, what if I went in and I did an investigation just by myself?
Yeah.
And they only do it for one night. Why don't I do it for 3? Oh, better idea. I'll do it for 5. So for 5 days, 5 nights, total to be about 110 hours, I investigated the Edinburgh Manor almost completely alone. Wow. And that is definitely the one that's kind of stuck with me the most, mostly because it's the one that honestly left me the most rattled out of any of them. I've had I used to do house calls a bit more back in the day, and I had a lot of meaningful experiences with that. I've experienced some very cool things, but my little stint of time in the Edinburgh Manor was probably what I keep going back to the most in my mind, just because for me it was an extremely kind of eye-opening, impactful experience. I left there rattled. It was one of those things that I started to trust my own senses more while I was there, mostly because I was the only one I could rely on.
Right.
It also taught me the importance of keeping my guard up, because there's nothing. I think the evil word gets thrown around way too much in the paranormal vernacular nowadays. Mm-hmm. And no, there's nothing evil in the Edinburgh Manor. There's a few negative things, but it was that constant, just kind of an onslaught to the senses. My original plan was to go in there and actually stay in the building for those 5 days. And after the first night, I realized that was just not going to be the case, because I had set up, when you walk in the Edinburgh Manor, you kind of walk in maybe 20, 25 feet, and then the building basically splits in half. Okay. And the men's wing down to the right, the women's wing to the left, and in the middle there was this common area. And I was thinking, well, I'm going to be here a long time. I need to have a safe space, a physical safe space, because at the time I don't think I knew completely how to put up a mental safe space. And I went with a pop-up tent, basically. And I was going to go in there, and it's like, you can't see me, I can't see you kind of thing, and it'll be just fine. And I did not take into consideration that sound will travel through nylon pretty easily.
Yeah, the nails on nylon? Yeah.
That first night I slept maybe half an hour. It was consistent. There was, it wasn't the sound of what, sounded like people walking on the floor above me. I was hearing conversations down the hall. More than once during that night, I heard a baby cry. There was one point, and the camera batteries had died, so I only had audio running, and you could hear me get up. A little bit of profanity slipped because a large, heavy steel door had slammed shut. And I was actually going around looking for people, because I was all of a sudden, teenagers, someone had broken in there, and we're kind of poking around, because that's, that creepy old haunted place, and that's what teenagers do.
Yep.
But no, it was a lot, and and honestly, it was, as I don't want to say traumatic, because that's a bit of a over exaggeration, but as intense of an experience it was for me, it was also very meaningful, because it was what really, I'd always known there was something there, but that week in that building by myself was something else.
Yeah, I can only imagine. So I got to ask you this. When I heard you say it, it popped into my mind. Is not a baby's laugh the most scariest thing when you know there's not a baby around?
Oh yeah.
Doesn't that just creep you out? Oh my gosh.
And honestly, it was one of those, and this screams kind of testament to just what kind of mental place I was in. And I'll have to dig it up, because if it gives you an idea how long ago this was, it was shot on high 8 tapes. I'll have to find the tape sometime and actually get it uploaded. So some of my side cameras were high 8, and that one in particular, this clip in particular I'm thinking of, was almost those older cameras. And I was working on a documentary, so there obviously had to be cameras everywhere. And I had my little nerve center, and I had the camera kind of at the edge of the table, pointed at me. And at the time, I was just kind of sitting there watching the DVR system. And I heard it. The camera audio very clearly picks it up. The baby cried.
Yeah.
Crystal clear. And instead of jumping up in surprise or looking afraid, I just kind of stopped what I was doing, looked at the camera, went, baby's crying again, and went back to what I was doing. Just because I had hit a point where nothing was really shocking me anymore, and the silence was, just as nerve shattering as the actual experience has become. It was, hindsight being 20/20, way too much.
Yeah, but I love the fact that you did that, because there are so many of us who want so bad to be able to do something like that, because I can't tell you how many times I've been to like Rhodes Hotel in Indiana. 10, maybe 12 times. And I'd have to say maybe 8 of those 12 times things have happened. So things don't happen every single time.
No.
Or you go to Waverly. First time it was unbelievable. Second time, not a darn thing. Third time, 2 or 3 things happen. So it changes. It changes constantly. And let's face it, at some of these bigger places like Waverly, I think the ghosts get burned out because it's night after night after night of people coming in asking the same questions.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
The same thing over and over. I mean, I would get bored and go sit in the corner and not have anything to do with it if I was a ghost. I'd be like, oh God, not again.
Yeah. As cool as it was, I also like to throw the disclaimer out after I tell people I've done that. That was stupid. That was not the most advisable thing, and I would never recommend anybody doing any sort of long-term investigating by themselves. Little isolation sessions, definitely. Yeah. But no, not definitely not 5 days in probably one of the most haunted locations in Iowa. Yeah, no.
Yeah. I think 2 or 3 people would be good. I think that would be good.
2 or 3 is a magic number.
Yeah. Agreed. Very much so. Or if you're going to do a private investigation, I like 4, because 4 people to set up, 2 people go in, 2 monitor, you switch, then you all come together, do the big group EVP, and then there's 4 people to break down. So, yeah, especially if you got like a DVR system set up, and all these cameras and microphones, like, end of the night, 2, 3 a.m., you're tired. And if you've got 4 people there to wrap stuff up, even 4 people are better.
And then you have 4 people there to actually sit there and review the stuff, because that is a painstaking process doing it by yourself.
Oh, agreed. Very much agreed. Oh, that gets to me after a while. Whew. I think some of the things that we used to do when we would go on the further places to go and to investigate, we would actually pull out old EVPs and stuff, or old evidence, and go over it. And I can't tell you how many times we listened and went, oh, we never caught that, even though we listened to it repeatedly. It was just because it had been several months. We're on this long trip. We're all bored. The only thing we're listening to is, EVP sessions. And you hear other stuff.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Do you do EVPs, or do you just do like the recording on the, on your cameras?
Oh, no, do a little bit of everything. So when I do my work, I don't want to say I have a specialty, but I tend to lean more towards spirit photography. And that's honestly mostly because I'm just a visual person. But, I've usually got not just a single recorder that I'm doing like an EVP session with. I've always got a recorder running in the background on top of that, because honestly, my observations, they're going to do a lot, if not most, of the interacting when you're paying absolutely no attention.
Yep, I agree. Yeah. When you get back together, or in the beginning when you're setting up and you're all there and you're talking, you're laughing, you're having fun, and the air of everybody just in a relaxed state before, you're all quiet, you're more focused. That seems to be when we get the best EVPs.
And it honestly, to me, it makes the most sense, because my mentality towards it has always been that ghost spirits, they're people too, and they just kind of they ditch the meat suit. They're less fleshy than us.
Exactly.
And it makes so much more sense to me that you'd want to interact with this happy group of people instead of this collective of weirdos sitting in a circle around a blinking red light going, hey, can you talk into that? Yeah. Because it's not quite as inviting as just a conversation, sitting down and just kind of enjoying yourself. Typically when I do EVP sessions, it won't even be, a lot of it won't be direct questioning, just because I don't want it to feel like an interrogation for them.
Right.
basically, it's usually me and somebody else. So we'll be having a conversation, and I'll be like, "Hey, well, what do you think about whatever it is we're talking about?" The last time I actually did a EVP session that was just me. I was doing a bit of filming for. I was promoting a event that I was putting on at Spook Cave and Campground up in McGregor. I sat down and I lit a campfire, and I had snacks, and I had an extra chair sitting out, just because I wanted to be that genuine human interaction, because I think that's exactly what it is.
Nice.
It's just with someone that we can't see anymore.
Cool. Well, I did want to let you know there is a message in the chat room on ParaX. It's from Fred, and he said, "I hope I get to investigate with you again this year, Chris."
Oh, yeah, Fred, absolutely. I'll be a little bit everywhere, so it'll just be a matter of finding a time and place.
Cool. Now, is there a place, obviously not private investigations, but more public ones? Is there any place that you post them that people would be able to know where you're going to be if they want to be there too? Are there any public hunts that you'll be attending?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Last year was the kind of introduction to the Spook Cave ghost hunts. Just a little bit of backstory, because I've got a whole spiel on it. But basically, for the last 3 years, I've been living in a campground that I've known to be haunted. And last year, they kind of let me open the door to letting people come in, and the campground's really cool. There was this old railroad town that got washed away. Very cool stories. Northeast Iowa is very high in native energy, because that's where a lot of their mounds were located along the Mississippi there. The big draw, though, was actually Spook Cave. So unlike pretty much any other kind of investigation, this has to be a small group, because we actually take a 9-person passenger boat into about a half-mile in-length cave.
Okay.
So we're fluctuating between 90 to 120 feet underground, and we got a lot of cool interactions from that last year. Everybody kind of left with some sort of experience that they enjoyed, and honestly, you got to check out a cave on top of a paranormal investigation. It was just a very cool dynamic. So hopefully this year I'll be able to do that again. They just recently got new owners, so there's a little bit of negotiating, finagling that we have to take care of. But any information on stuff that I personally am hosting with stuff like that, you'll always be able to find on the paranomad.com. Coming up May 2nd, and I'm pretty sure it's shared to my Facebook page. I'll be kind of helping out with an event at Malvern Manor. It'll be May 2nd, so it will be myself, obviously, Brandy Green of Ghost Hunters International, the mystical moonspinner herself, Kelly McCarville, and Josh Hurd will be kind of running that. And there's a few I'm hoping to attend throughout the year. The Suicide Awareness event at Ashmore, which is an awesome cause for an event. I'm hoping to be able to attend that.
I hope you will too, because I'll be at that one. I will be at
good
that
to see
one
you
too.
again.
Yeah.
You don't have to wait until September.
Yeah. Yeah, so the Suicide Awareness, there's actually not going to be an actual hunt there, guys. It's going to be some different things during the day. There'll be people speaking. This is all at Ashmore Estates in Ashmore, Illinois, and that is April 17th and 18th. It's just going to be a great weekend. It's all going to be for suicide awareness. The proceeds are all going to be going to the Suicide Awareness Program, and that's going to help to fund like the 1-800 number. It's going to fund programs in schools and also at centers to like help educate people and also give them a chance to find somebody to help them if that's what they're looking for. So keep that one in mind. April 17th and 18th, Suicide Awareness Program at Ashmore Estates. There's going to be a lot of great speakers. And yes, I will be there. Will I be speaking? No. Will I be a vendor? No. I am going to go there to just have fun, cause a little trouble, and run around and give everybody hugs. That's truly all I'm going to do.
Just kind of drink it all in, definitely.
Yes, and get to hang out with some. And I know Dustin Perry's going to be there, and I love to hear Dustin speak. He's a great speaker. So, yes, well, that being said, we're going to come back. I know you have a few more that you were kind of talking about for Public Hunt, and we'll get back into that. But we are going to take a little break here for just a few minutes, guys, and we'll be back. For right now, you are listening to Illuminating the Paranormal on ParaX with our guest, Chris Neilson.
Your source for everything paranormal. ParaX.
Hey, this is Lee.
And this is Michelle.
And this is Dustin from the Dead Zone.
Your source for everything paranormal. ParaX.
I found it at last! Marla's Sacred Cauldron. This is the legendary artifact that has been whispered about in hushed tones for hundreds of years, and now it's mine! All
mine! Who dares defile the sanctity of my castle walls? Step away from the cauldron, you impertinent, muddy-metaled maltworm.
Never! I've spent half my lifetime trying to discover your age-old secret of stirring the cauldron.
Oh, for Merlin's sake, that's no deep, dark secret. Just tune into the ParaX Radio Network Thursday nights at 9 o'clock Eastern for more cauldron stirring than you can shake a wand at.
Oh, well, in that case, I guess I don't need to take up any more of your time, so I guess I'll be going.
Not just yet. We've got a little unfinished business to take care of.
That's Stirring the Cauldron with Marla Brooks every Thursday night at 9 p.m. Eastern on the ParaX Radio Network.
And welcome back, everyone, to Illuminating the Paranormal. My name is Tina Marie, and our guest tonight is Chris Neilson. Chris, welcome back.
Hey, thank you.
Well, I know, I apologize. I kind of jumped in there because you had mentioned Ashmore Estates. I believe there was some others you were going to talk about. I think Kelly said you're going to be at all the psychic and paranormal expos, right?
I've started referring to it as my little Iowa circuit. But yeah, Kelly puts on a fantastic string of psychic, paranormal, metaphysical expos, and I've been at all but, I want to say, 2 of them over the last 7 years.
Nice.
So that's that's become my definite one that you'd be seeing me at any given point over the year.
Kelly is a good person. She always kind of makes it. Yes, it seems like any Paracon that I'm at, that she's at, the whole air is just fun, bubbly, giggly. You know, it's just, I'm attributing that to you, Kelly. So just letting you know.
Most
so
definitely.
Any other hunts that you were going to mention before the break that you wanted to let us know?
Oh, I actually ended up pulling out my schedule.
Good.
So yeah, This isn't my specifically event, but here in Iowa we have something kind of cool. It's Believers United Society.
Okay.
And it is a team with no set borders. Steve Weeks is and his wife Billy are usually the ones kind of behind the wheel. And they're inviting these Southern Gypsies up in May, the 15th and 16th. On the 15th, they'll be at the Granger House, which is a cool little location in Marion. And May 16th, they will be at the Edinburgh Manor, which is, I've already discussed, a personal favorite of mine. So that'll be cool. On June 20th, it looks like, there's going to be a event hosted by Rebecca Williamson at the Cambry House, which is this just kind of adorable little red house in the middle of nowhere outside of Nauvoo, Illinois. And if anybody's curious about any of these things, I would definitely recommend stopping and checking out at least the event pages, if not anybody's personal sites, because they are really cool. But yeah, that's off the top of my head the set dates that I have so far this year. I've got a couple other things in the works. Like I said, I'm really barking up the tree to get back into Spook Cave, because year one we had 4 events, all but one of them sold out, and that's because it was on a Tuesday. So that was a really cool experience that I want to be able to get people kind of back up in there for. So nice. Yeah, I would definitely recommend people keeping an eye out for that.
Yeah, and I know you and I will be doing SilCon again this year, and that one's in September. And I think that Ashmore and SilCon might be the only ones that you and I are doing together this year that we'll get to see each other. But that's all right. That's all right. At least we get to see each other. So.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I mean. Yeah. You're pretty close to the Michigan border. I know it's a bit of a jaunt, but I'll be up at the MI Paracon at the end of September, and also be at the Omaha Haunticon, which is actually my kind of next stop. It'll be kind of be at the beginning of April 4th, if memory serves me right. Okay. I put away my schedule.
Okay, that's okay. Yeah, I know I'm already fully booked for April. That one, I have no time. But let me ask you this. Not just so much for a Paracon, but for an investigation or a haunted place that you just wanted to go to. What's the furthest you've traveled?
So, that would be along the San Pedro River Valley in Arizona. So back last winter, I was actually living out there.
Okay.
I was living in out of my camper in a campground in Benson, and that was right around when that movie La Llorona first came out, and I got just kind of curious. And so I started looking into like the folklore, that sort of thing, and I found that a lot of the original stories had been kind of reported along the San Pedro River Valley, which, luck may have it, was pretty much exactly where I was located at the time.
Nice.
So it was a bit more of a chasing like a local legend kind of thing. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I found a couple dry riverbeds and got a recorder out and just kind of had some fun with it. I'm hoping in the next couple years to say I've been coast to coast with it. So that's as far west, as far east as I've been thus far is Gettysburg, unless you count me pulling off the side of the road to check out a cool cemetery outside of York Beach, Maine.
Hey, if you checked it out, I'll give it to you. So you've almost done coast to coast, almost. So, well, that's kind of cool. I can't say that I've gone far up as Maine. I've gone as far south as New Orleans. I've been to Gettysburg several different times. I love Gettysburg. So many things that happened there. I've done a couple other, one in New Jersey. So, yeah. more East Coast and Midwest for me. So, but let me ask you this one. Here's one. I'm just kind of curious because you kind of go all over like I do. So besides like ghosts or spirits, have you ever investigated for like anything else like a cryptid or a UFO?
Actually, yeah, kind of. So I didn't know how exactly to go about it, but on my way to where I was living in Arizona, which is actually maybe 45 minutes north of like Mexico, we had to pass through New Mexico, and I wasn't going to miss the opportunity to stop by Roswell.
Right.
So swung through, checked out the museum, which was really cool, and that for the next few nights, I just kind of parked it. It's maybe an hour and a half southwest at a cool little state park. Open skies. I set a camera out. I wasn't totally sure what I was doing, but yeah, I've spent quite a few nights in the desert, just kind of looking at the sky, waiting for something. I'm waiting for my opportunity to go squatching. That's one that has me really curious because over the last, not even like 3 to 6 months, I've heard something like, it's one of those things you hear and you kind of shake your head at first, and then the more you think about it, it kind of makes sense. Mm-hmm. And I've heard either Bigfoot is the ghost of a Neanderthal, which is
that's a new one on me, but hey, it makes you think,
right? Or the reason we're not finding anything is because he's coming from somewhere else, and Bigfoot is actually a extraterrestrial being. And I think it's very cool that not only we've been contacted by aliens, but they're Wookiees, which is awesome.
Yeah, and I've even heard the one where we are actually a penal planet, and this is where they drop off the ones that misbehave, or and this was just like a family of Bigfoots that they left here. So, you hear so many different things, and you're just like, okay, I'll consider that. I don't know, or you hear that maybe Bigfoot's an interdimensional being. That one, yeah. Yeah, and that would be why we don't find bones or anything like that of those that have passed. So I don't know.
Oh no,
been out once, and that was about it.
No, the cryptids and the UFOs. It's all something that also definitely kind of holds my interest. Actually, here in Iowa, we've got Van Meter. Have you heard of the Van Meter visitor? I
have not. Tell me about this.
So back in, and I'm probably going to botch the exact information, so I'll try to avoid that. But it was the 1920s.
Okay.
Itty bitty town of Van Meter, Iowa, had a sighting of this thing, and if you look it up on Google, just the Van Meter visitor, it reminds me of almost like a pterodactyl.
Okay.
And it's this winged creature, and that had this beam of light coming from its head. And a lot of prominent people in town actually saw it, claimed to have seen it. And these were people with reputation, so obviously they wouldn't just go around saying that they saw it. Some people had claimed to have shot it. It disappeared down a mine shaft. 2 days later, it flew out with another one of its own kind. And
okay.
It had never been seen again. But yeah, if you look up the Van Meter visitor.
I did. I looked it up. I popped it into the chat room here. Of course, mine is like Cryptid Wiki, but Oh, so that's kind of wild. I know if you go out and then you investigate, especially if you're with a team. There's only so many places you can go, and you inevitably end up in graveyards from time to time. Yeah. And I'm sorry, but if you do it long enough, you start running into other things that are out there. They're like, okay, that is way too physical to be a ghost. But what is that? You run into things, you see things, you experience things, you hear things that you just can't put your finger down to say, hey, that's from the spiritual realm. You're coming across other things. And if whatever is out there is pulling in spirits or spirit energy, why wouldn't it be attracting to cryptids or UFOs, because obviously, there's got to be something. There's quite a few that are from that camp that say, if it attracts one, it attracts the other. And if you go out and you start looking into the information, you start seeing that where you've seen spirit the most, you'll also see that there are quite a few different cryptids that have been reported, or a lot of UFOs been reported in the area. They seem to be all the same area. I don't know how to explain it, but it just seems to be what happens.
It's kind of like interesting. I'll say coincidence, even though I don't think I believe in them. Van Meter is actually within a semi-reasonable proximity to like Villisca.
Oh, okay.
I'm pretty sure everybody's heard of that house.
Yeah. That's pretty much been like debunked in a sense, more or less. Have I heard?
I've had the opportunity to go out to Villisca. I didn't do the overnight, but got to do some daytime stuff. And to me personally, and I'm sure there are people that disagree, but to me it doesn't feel like whatever's there is necessarily intelligent. I don't, and I'm sure it's not always, but I think what's left there is just this big ugly scar of a travesty. But then that's not to say there wasn't potential for interaction there, because I got a few interesting pictures, that sort of thing. But yeah, a lot of what I got, I personally felt at Villisca was a lot of just residual kind of grossness, if that makes sense. It just, you felt what happened there. And gross is always the word I tend to gravitate back to.
It kind of reminds, when you go into some place that is reported to be haunted, or you're doing an investigation where the people are just really freaked out because there's so much going on. You walk into a home like that, or a business, or an area where there's so much supposed paranormal things happening. I'm sorry, you walk into that, you can feel the fear. You can feel the energy. I mean, I've been in homes where it felt like I was walking through Jell-O. It was so thick.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I've got, so you actually just reminded me, back in 2018, I worked a case and a private home. And what I was gathering was basically the homeowner was basically manifesting a lot of her own stuff, and it wasn't just something that you felt when she was in the house, because typically if I'll do a house call, which I don't do a ton of anymore, but it'll usually be in like 3 or 4 parts, and at least 1 or 2 of them has to consist of the homeowners not being there. And this particular time, I think it was over the course of 3 visits, and the first 2 times it was just a quiet night. And then the third night, she was there. You felt it, and it wasn't just reflected in like personal feelings, but some very like interesting pictures and EVP came out of it. I tend to stray away from like the word evidence, just because that's something that, hey, this is beyond a shadow of a doubt. This is what it is, and I can't go into a court of law, slide someone a picture of dust, and be like, hey, here's a ghost.
Right. No, understood.
But yeah, the findings that came out of it it was just interesting, because it escalated with the presence of the homeowner. So I was, by the time it was done, I was like, hey, you stop giving, if there is something here, if you keep giving it fear, it's going to keep showing up. You kind of,
feeding it.
Pull back on the reins a little bit. It's not, it's not Satan. He's not here to get you. It's just a roommate, essentially, that you didn't ask for.
Right.
You pull back the reins on the fear, and it'll go away. That was pretty much my diagnosis.
Yeah, I've done some investigations where one was the typical teenager in the house and the angst and what they more or less created there. And then it was one was an adult that was having some issues, and same type of thing. They were They were, in a sense, more or less creating the energy that was creating the whatever was happening there. And I don't care
I'm a
who you are.
firm
You get
believer.
creeped out by that feeling. Ugh.
I'm a firm believer that I don't know where I stand on demons, but if they are real, there's definitely more going on in the people in the house than there is the house itself.
Yeah, people keep in mind sometimes the biggest monsters out there are the ones in your head, just because you let your mind run away with it. It just seems like they create something bigger than what is there for themselves, and it's sad, and it's hard to explain to some people. You got to kind of break it down, and not easy to do. So, well, with you I'm sure you're keeping track of all the investigations you've done, all the haunts that you've been to. So is there a book or a movie or anything coming out?
So my my focus right now has been the Paranomad.com, which I'm back, and there's probably about half of a book written. And time kept passing with me working on that. It's something I would like to pursue, but honestly, the Paranomad.com, I'm working as a kind of just a cool outlet for pretty much anything paranormal. So there'll be like my personal stories, but then there'll be just like photo galleries of some of the places I've been. There's explain some of the equipment, some of the locations I've been to, paranormal experiments that I've been kind of trying to cook up, because as much as I'm into the woo-woo, I'm also into the sciencey stuff, and I feel like there's a way to build a bridge to that. It's just kind of figuring out what that is. So there's a few kind of cool experiments I'm working on. So yeah, a lot of that's going to be at the Paranomad.com. If there is a book in the future, I couldn't predict when or if, but I know there's about half of one written that's sitting in my Google Drive.
So like most of us.
Yeah.
You've got all your information, you've got all your evidence, and you've got everything that you've gathered. It's in notebooks, it's on paper, it's in your drive, and yeah, we're all going to get to that book real soon now.
And
it's just
honestly, I feel a lot of it keeps creeping out into the Paranomad.com. So the story of Greg is actually almost verbatim what would have been in the book. One of my more recent ones, Lesson in Provocation, that was also pretty close to copy pasted out of the book. It's becoming an interesting outlet for me, because a book is something static, but with what I'm doing kind of with the website, it's allowed to progress as I do, which is kind of cool for me.
good. Well, we have about a minute or two left. Do you want to quick tell everybody who Greg is?
Yeah, so Greg is, unfortunately, I can't get too specific because I haven't been able to find any information. So Greg is a little boy who I saw when I was about 8 in my grandparents' house, too, who to this day, it was one of the most haunted places I've ever been to. And I was about 8 years old. He was at the foot of their stairs, and that's kind of what sparked it all. And fast forward to when I started actually doing investigations, my grandparents' house kind of became a frequent stop. Stop by and say hey to Grandma and Grandpa, and then, hey, would you mind if I went in the room with the recorder for a little bit, kind of thing. And at one point, just simply asked, hey, I saw a little boy when I was younger. Can you tell me who that was? And the EVP that came back fairly clearly just said Greg, and
nice.
That's what I call him. He actually he's a little bit of a frequent flyer with me. He kind of pops in on occasion.
Nice.
And it's cool because he's just kind of like my little buddy.
Awesome. Well, guys, if you want to see where Chris is going to be or what Chris is up to, please hop over to his website. It's www.paranomad.com. And Chris, thank you so very, very much for being on the show tonight. I had a lot of fun. And will you come back? Because I know I have more things to ask you.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Oh, wonderful. That's good. Well, guys, if you want to catch up with me, I am actually going to be in Tallmadge, Ohio this Sunday at the Tallmadge Event Center, and I am actually going to meet someone I've been wanting to meet for a long time. I'm finally going to get to hear Marianne Winkowski speak, and I'm going to get a chance to meet her. If you don't know who she is the one that the CBS's Ghost Whisperer, the basis of that show was based on Marianne. So I'm going to be there this Sunday, and if you are looking for more information on my show, you can catch me on Facebook.com/Illuminating the Paranormal, and you can also find me at any one of my other 3 sites on Facebook at Nature's Earthware, WARE, Heirloom Haberdashery, and Three Sisters Smudging, which, by the way, Three Sisters Smudging is having a really great sale right now on smudges. So, all right, guys, thank you so very much. I really, really appreciate you guys being with me this evening, and I will talk to all of you next week. Have a